What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. On this video, I will take you guys through my team selection for the upcoming Game Week 3. So Game Week 2 proved to be quite an interesting week. We're going to start off this video with the review of Game Week 2. So before you actually watch the video, comment down below how you guys got on. Was it a good week, a bad week, or somewhere in the middle? We're then going to turn our attention to Game Week 3, take a look at the team selection before the transfer, and then after that context, going to discuss the transfer plan where we might actually be taking a -4 hit going into that Game Week 3 deadline. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over the Game Week 2 review, as you guys know, my transfer plan was recorded before the Liverpool game, so I'll be going through those players with a bit more depth, but in terms of other players, we've already kind of spoken about them, so I'm going to be going through them quite quickly, just to not waste your guys' time. Now in terms of the overall points that we managed to get in Game Week 2, 72 points at the end of the day, which was above the average and saw us rise in rank from about 3 million to just above 1.4. But as you guys know, the rank in Game Week 2 does not matter. I would say around Game Week 10 is probably the first time that you guys can get some context about your overall ranking, so please don't worry about it too much at the moment. Now in terms of the transfer plan, 1 free transfer, 0.5 in the bank, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Starting off with the bench, nothing much to talk about here. Ward, Bailey, Andres Pereira, and Archer. Really happy that I did bench Leon Bailey with that speculation of his benching, because the options we chose to play over him actually ended up getting us some points. Unfortunately, no points from our goalkeeper Ramsdale this week. Tough fixture against Leicester. I mentioned not too many expectations for a clean sheet there, as Leicester can't defend, so they have to attack. Going on to the rest of our backline though, the first two options we're going to talk about are going to be the Liverpool assets, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. So Trent managed to get an extra bonus point on top of his 2 appearance points because of how many chances he actually created in that game. Now the Crystal Palace game was quite tough for Liverpool, but they only really conceded one massive chance, and that was going to be to Wilfried Zaha, who ended up scoring. Now in terms of the first 60 minutes, I was super happy about owning Robertson. He looked like the better option. Him versus Diaz was a big debate going into Game Week 1 and Game Week 2, and when you guys saw Andy Robertson's positions, he was almost playing as a striker in some plays. But what goes and happens, Andy Robertson gets subbed after the Darwin red card, Diaz goes and scores a worldie, and the rest is history. So I guess at the end of the day, that's going to be FPL. Sometimes the luck's on your side, sometimes it's not, but Robertson in that fixture looked great, but I am slightly worried about him going into the upcoming game weeks. 3 options that I'm not really worried about at all are going to be Cancelo, Walker, and Reece James. Reece James opted to play him over Bailey. Super happy that I did. Had a massive chance created that Havertz skied, but then luckily he himself ended up scoring later on. A little bit unlucky with the clean sheet, but I guess they were playing against a good Spurs side, so 7 points in Game Week 2 is enough for me. Now I guess there's some slight concern about Kyle Walker. We have seen them just sign a new left back, but I do think he will be fine for the upcoming fixtures. But there has been talk about potentially John Stones coming into the lineup and then Ake either moving to the right or John Stones playing on the right himself. But for now, I'm not too worried about Walker because he is getting some clean sheets, and I guess when he is dropped, that's when we all transfer him out. Heading into our midfield department, not much to talk about between Salah and Neto. Both these two options did not have a great game. The only thing I will say is that Salah blank did actually, I think, affect us positively in the end, because he actually was captained by quite a few managers. Relatively quiet game for Mo Salah, had 1 or 2 chances, but overall Crystal Palace played quite well defensively, but I still haven't lost faith in Mo Salah, to be honest. Now Pedro Neto is a whole different debate. I think I might have lost faith in him, and that's why he's probably the #1 target on my transfer out list, but who kind of knows, maybe he'll find himself in our starting 11 next week or the week after. Finally though, ending the midfield on a positive note, Martinelli had a great fixture yet again, scoring one of the best value options in the game at the current moment at that price point. 6.0 million, now risen to I think 6.2, offering better value than Saka, and that's all that you can ask for at the end of the day. Heading into our forward line, we have our captain Erling Haaland, who scored 5 points, doubled to 10. Luckily our captain outperformed Mo Salah because that might have been quite a bad game week, to be honest. But overall Haaland, I was pretty disappointed with his performance. 4 goals for Man City and none for himself. Luckily with Jesus managing 19 points, a massive haul. If you guys did captain him, all I can say is congratulations, because that's a massive haul to get. And it was nice to see that the Brazilian got off the mark for Arsenal in the Premier League. But overall 72 points, I was pretty happy with this. And as long as we can get green arrows from now to Game Week 38, I'm going to take that. But as I said in the introduction, let me know how you guys got on in the comments down below. So now that we've gotten the Game Week 2 review out the way, I do apologize. I probably spoke quite quickly through that just because I've already spoken about most of those players and I don't want to waste your guys' time. I'm going to slow it down slightly for the team selection for Game Week 3 because now this is new information, this is new content, so let's run through it. So the biggest talking point is obviously on the bottom right hand side, 1 free transfer, 0.5 in the bank. We can make a significant upgrade with that. It just depends on what department we decide to use it on. Now I'm going to start off with my bench for Game Week 3 because there is some benching headaches that could potentially happen going into the deadline. So currently, as you guys can see on my bench, I've got Ward against Southampton at home. I just don't really favor that Leicester defense at the moment. If you guys do have him, I would be semi-confident of a clean sheet because Southampton have been pretty bad. Leicester's defense is also pretty bad though, so it just depends on which one's going to equal out. But as you guys can see, the first outfield player on my bench, Leon Bailey, yes, I've actually taken a price drop on him. He currently is going to be 4.9 and I've lost 0.1. Now my thinking behind this, you guys will see in the transfer plan, I wasn't going to play Bailey this week anyways, and that's why I wanted to make a more proactive move on my starting 11. Then moving on to Neto at 5.5, I don't really want to bench him every single game week, but that Spurs fixture away is going to be quite a tough one. And Wolves at the moment aren't really producing much from an attacking point of view. Now the nice thing about Wolves though, they have signed some attacking options. I think they've signed multiple options, high value options that should improve their attack, and therefore that probably will make Neto a better option in the upcoming game weeks. And then finally on my bench, you guys are going to see this player every single time, third on my bench. It's going to be Archer from Aston Villa. As if Bailey's not going to start, Archer definitely won't. But now heading on to our starting 11, and we're going to start off with our first away game of many. I think everyone in our starting 11 actually has an away fixture except for one. But you guys would have figured that because last week it was the home run. We had a massive amount of home fixtures, so we obviously have to have a reaction in the game week after. But Ramsdale against Bournemouth away, this is quite a tough game to be honest. Bournemouth in game week 1 showed pretty good form, but I do think Arsenal's defense is pretty solid even though they did concede in game week 2. Now Ramsdale, in my opinion, is still one of the best goalkeepers in that department, and as you guys saw in the preview yesterday, or the ultimate guide yesterday, Arsenal's XG conceded is still pretty strong. So I don't want to jinx him, but I am expecting some defensive returns from Aaron Ramsdale. Now heading on to our back line, or our big at the back 5, the two options starting off, I'm going to talk about them both because they have the same fixture. It's going to be United away for Trent and Robertson. Now on paper, this fixture should be quite a strong one, but when you guys do analyze both sides, both teams aren't playing that well. Yes, Liverpool are probably playing better than United at the current moment, but this game could go either way, especially because this is an away game at Old Trafford. Now there has been some speculation about a protest potentially at Old Trafford, so just keep your eyes on the news because the last thing we want is this game to be postponed. Now with these two assets, I'm confident of them starting, but I'm not really confident of them getting too many points, as you saw with Robertson last week and in game week 1, only 2-point appearances. And against United, they can't defend, so as with Leicester, they're probably going to attack quite significantly. So I'm not too confident about clean sheets here, but you know what, these two assets, they get forward so much, so maybe some attacking returns, but that is something to take into account when we are talking about our transfer plan. We're then going to cover our two-man City defenders, Cancelo and Kyle Walker. Now, Newcastle away is actually a tough game. Newcastle showed at the end of last season and the first 2 games how strong they actually are, defensively and from an attacking point of view. But this is Man City at the end of the day, and hopefully a clean sheet's going to be on the cards. The good thing about Man City's defense is their XG conceded is rock solid. They've got about 0.5 XG conceded in the opening 2 games, which is miles better than the second team. So hopefully both these two assets start and get me some returns because this fixture isn't as bad as maybe some of the other players. And then finally, Reece James against Leeds away, and this is a tough game to kind of call. I initially said that I do think that Leeds will score in this fixture, and that's why the double up on Cucurella and James might not be on the cards. Leeds are playing stronger than they have in the prior season. It just depends on what kind of team pitches up. Now Chelsea have actually been improving defensively. Game week 2, although it was against Spurs, they look slightly better, and you guys just saw 5 minutes of Reece James at right wing back was all we needed, and hopefully he starts at that position in game week 3. So definitely happy that I went with Reece James for game week 1, and depending on what the defensive transfers that Chelsea do make, he could actually be nailed at that right wing back slot. But now heading on to our midfield department, and the first player to talk about is going to be Mo Salah. Historically, he has absolutely banged against United, as long as the history is kind of last season, and I am expecting him to do quite well, but I am a little bit worried about the form he showed in game week 2. Now I think with Darwin Núñez out with that red card, Mo Salah is going to have to pitch up for this game, and to be honest, I do think he will because he loves playing into United, as we saw last season. Now the Egyptian stats are still pretty strong. I would have liked his XG to be slightly higher than it currently is, but at least as you guys saw in the ultimate guide yesterday, the expected assists are still pretty strong. So the Egyptians are going anywhere in my team, and it's just going to depend if we captain him or not. We're then going to move on to a no-brainer in terms of our players. It's going to be Martinelli against Bournemouth away. Bournemouth showing that they aren't as great from a defensive side, but they were playing Man City at the end of the day. But here comes Arsenal, a side that are red hot on the attacking side of things, and I'm expecting Martinelli to do quite well. But as I said, no-brainer, his price point is great, his points returns are great, so let's just hope that continues into game week 3. But now last midfielder might be slightly controversial, but currently in terms of this starting 11 and this bench, I'm currently starting Andreas Pereira. So currently the Fulham cam is out with a knock, but he should be back for game week 3. I'm expecting him to return, be in the starting 11, and play most of the fixture. Now yes, his attacking output hasn't been as strong as I've said. I would have liked his accuracy on the passes and through balls to be better, but I do think at 4.5 million, if we're going to go with this team selection, I might as well just start him. Now the only bad thing about this fixture is that Brentford have been great defensively over the opening 2 game weeks, and that's why against Fulham I'm expecting quite a tough game there, and that obviously lowers Andreas Pereira's attacking output. But who kind of knows? With the transfer plan, probably won't start him, but if I had to, I'm actually not dreading it too much. And then finally, going on to our 2 forwards, it's going to be Erling Haaland, and then finally Gabriel Jesus. Now the fixture against Newcastle for Haaland is going to be quite a tough one, whereas with Jesus, I'm expecting him to do quite well. But maybe the thing with Haaland is when we expect him to not do well, he actually does well, because in that West Ham game, I wasn't expecting him to do pretty well, and then in the Bournemouth game when I was, he ended up only getting 1 assist. So let's just hope that he scores quite well, but I don't think in terms of captaincy, I'm going to be going for him, whereas with Jesus, I honestly might actually go for him. So let's just talk about the captaincy debate right now, because in terms of my team, it's between two options. It's between Salah and Jesus for the armband. So currently the captain is going to be on Mo Salah because I think I'm going a little bit safe here. The ownership is going to be quite good on him, but I do think Jesus will be captained by quite a few people. So I think the effective ownership of these two will be pretty equal, and it just depends on who you think will score more points. I think the ceiling might be higher on Jesus' side, but I think that Mo Salah is a safer option, and it just hope there's a lot of goals for Liverpool in that game, and hopefully United don't score, so Liverpool keep a clean sheet with this double defense. But let me know down below, who are you guys actually captaining? You're going for Mo Salah, you're going differential, maybe a Haaland, maybe a Jesus, or you're going completely ob and going for someone like a Cancelo or Reece James. But overall, guys, this is going to kind of wrap up the Game Week 3 preview or team selection without any transfers. So now let's talk about that transfer plan. So going on to our transfer plan, and as you guys know, one free transfer, 0.5 in the bank, and currently I've nailed it down to two kind of routes. The first one is going to be only for one free transfer, but the second route is going to be for a -4 hit, therefore two transfers. So the first things first, as I mentioned, talking about kind of Bailey and Neto, I was looking to transfer one of these two players out, and as I mentioned earlier on, I've actually taken the price drop on Bailey, so currently he's going to be 4.9 million. So with 0.5 in the bank, that obviously wipes out all those 5.5 options. I spoke about Anthony Gordon, I spoke about Damari Gray. I can now no longer go for any of those assets, and that's why currently Pedro Neto might be on the chopping block. Now I mentioned earlier on that I didn't necessarily want to take Bailey out because then I have a 5.5 option on my bench in Neto, and I really don't like having that much money in my bench. Also added to that, the 5.5 options, I don't consider them to be that great, whereas the range between the 5.5s and the 6 mils looks a lot better. So in terms of my starting 11 and my potential points, I believe that taking Neto over Bailey out would net me more points in the future, and that's why I didn't take the Aston Villa midfielder out. So now going on to that first transfer plan, if I do take Pedro Neto out, there's currently one option that has been on my mind since that kind of Monday transfer plan, and with the backing of the stats through the ultimate guide, it's going to be Gross from Brighton. So I just believe in terms of the Wolves fixtures, the next three aren't too great. However, that Game Week 5 fixture against Bournemouth away is going to be quite nice, but why not just take a punt on Gross for the next couple, who also plays Bournemouth in the upcoming game weeks. If you guys want to see the stats, go watch the ultimate guide yesterday, but his stats are off the charts. His XG, his XA, big chances created. He looks like a new player in the Prem this season, and that's why I think I want to jump on this punt. But that's why I think it has to be classified as a punt. I'm not super confident on him, but I think with that extra 0.1, we can still afford a Perisic move if we want to go for him, if maybe Kyle Walker drops out of the team. So that's what's quite attractive about this move. I still can afford an upgrade on Kyle Walker to Perisic if Perisic starts playing well, and I do think that it is an upgrade from Neto to Gross, even though it is only 0.1 million. So this is going to be the transfer plan with one free transfer. I know this might be a little bit kind of out there, a little bit casual. Gross is performing well, so we bring him in. But I actually do think the stats are quite strong, and I like the Brighton fixtures up until that first wildcard, probably around Game Week 9. But now let's talk about a different transfer plan that will require a -4 hit, and that's why it's more of a maverick transfer, and that's why I have to analyze this quite a lot to actually do it. Now this transfer plan is going to revolve around one man, and it's going to be Andy Robertson. So as you guys know, Andy Robertson, only 2-point appearances in his opening 2 game weeks, and that's why I might have got a little bit cold on the Scottish fullback, and overall on the Liverpool defense. Fixtures upcoming against United away, I think that's a better attacking fixture for Liverpool than defensive. We then have Bournemouth at home, which is a great fixture from an attacking point of view, and finally Newcastle at home, which I guess could be a good defensive fixture. But I think the biggest upgrade that I could potentially make is not Andy Robertson, it's going to be on the midfielder of choice. And right now that's going to be Pedro Neto. As I mentioned earlier on, I don't want the 5.5 midfielder on my bench because that's too much value. So the combination of the -4 would be Robertson out, Pedro Neto out, but now for who? Well, if I do take a Liverpool asset out, I want to complete that triple up yet again, and that's going to be for Luis Diaz in the midfield department. Now, Diaz comes in at 8.0 million, quite highly owned in terms of the Liverpool assets, but I do, as I said, want to fill that Liverpool triple up. Now, the big question I think that has to be answered here is, do you think that Robertson or Diaz scores more points over the next couple game weeks, and do you think Diaz outperforms Robertson by -4? Now, although this is not kind of a 1v1 comparison, because if you guys do recall, we do have some money left in the bank. Even though we're downgrading Robertson, we can afford a 5.0 defender. Now the 5.0 of choice, kind of the flavor of the minute, is going to be Cucurella from Chelsea. Some nice fixtures coming up for Chelsea, but I don't exactly know how many clean sheets will come about, because Leeds away and Leicester at home are tough fixtures in my opinion. Added to that, Cucurella might be a little bit of a rotation risk. Chilwell's playing with the development squad, so he might be out for the next couple of game weeks, and therefore if Cucurella's locked down at the left wing-back slot, he looks like absolute gold. So if you guys ask me, Robertson plus Neto or Diaz plus Cucurella, I do think this kind of combination will outperform the prior one with a -4 hit even, and that's why I'm actually tempted to go for this. What I also wanted to mention is that will leave me with 0.0 in the bank, and therefore I could actually go for a cheaper defender at 4.5. Now in terms of the 4.5 defenders, the two teams, as you guys would have seen in the ultimate guide yesterday, it's going to be Brighton and Brentford. Now between those two teams, I think I slightly prefer Brighton just because they've been in the Prem for quite a longer time than Brentford have, and that's why I just trust them a little bit more. Now in terms of those defenders to go for, there's not too many attacking options. However, I do want to keep my eye on a new signing that Brighton just made. They just signed a new left back, I think from Valencia or Villarreal. I can't exactly remember which team it was, but he looks like he's going to be a great asset. Now is he going to start game week 3? Who kind of knows, but he is priced at 4.5 and that's why I'm keeping my eye on him. But currently you have to go for Mr. Reliable, Dunk at 4.5 million. As I mentioned, the Brighton fixtures coming up till about game week 9 look pretty strong and they have a pretty good XG conceded over the opening 2. Now the West Ham away fixture is going to be quite a tough one. Leeds away like Chelsea, that's also going to be a tough game to go by. But at the current moment, Brighton are defending pretty well. What I like about this combination is that this yet again gives me 0.5 in the bank. So if we do choose to upgrade Kyle Walker to Perisic, we can do that move. So that's why this combination versus the earlier one kind of has the better long-term plan because that's 0.5 in the bank. But I think short-term, Cucurella, it probably will score more points than Dunk. But let me know in the comments down below, which combination do you guys prefer? Out of these two Diaz combinations, or do you prefer going for the Gross move? As then I'm still keeping Robertson and also that -4 hit. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please have to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline. So make sure those Twitter notifications are on or that YouTube bell notification. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.